Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Hi there, folks, and welcome to this, the third and final part of my Outlander pre-season 5 looking ahead Droughtlander coverage. Now, I managed to leave this right up until the last minute, but there you go. It's not like I can go back in time because I found some stones and just start earlier. And I've been a little bit ill recently, so that's made this a little bit difficult. And before we get cracked into things, remember that if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to see all of my coverage of the next season of Outlander, as well as all my other videos. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Grumpy Opinions. Easy to remember, same as this channel. Now, we've covered an awful lot in the previous parts of this series. And the new opening sequence, Claire's surgery, Christmas ASMR video thing, the teaser and the promo. So in this part, we're going to look at the final trailer, and also the clip from the start of episode 1. But I want to give everyone a bit of fair warning, because if you don't want to see that, if you don't want to go in spoiler free or anything like that, I'll give you plenty of notice and make sure you can skip it if you want to. So let's take a bit of a different tack to things this week. Let's get properly in depth here with the show's main official trailer. Now, the first thing you might notice if you saw this trailer is that there's an awful lot of footage in this that was also in the original teaser trailer. But as they say, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and in the case of trailers, that means how well are these things put together. And this trailer follows in the tried and tested recent route of a bunch of famous trailers, like things like Avengers Endgame, The Rise of Skywalker, where it opens with a bit of a flashback sequence of previous footage and a voiceover. There's a little bit of Claire at the window, the same shot from the opening credits, clearly looking out at something that concerns her. But she's still a little bit hopeful, as she says to Big Jim, "I'm grateful."
Every day we have.
And she should be, because, she's been hogging the promo material right up until now, which is probably why Jamie pops up and we see him in Tryon in the armies. Because there's an awful lot more Jamie in this trailer than there have been in the previous materials, including this shot, which frankly feels a little bit like it's something we've not ever reckoned on seeing. I mean, Jamie in a red coat. The redcoats who've always been his enemy, who've done terrible things to him. And it looks like this isn't just for funsies or him wearing some kind of disguise. But as I said, some of this footage is stuff we've seen before. But at a couple of points, it's longer versions of what we saw before, like with Bree and Roger.
You want to go back, don't you? Our family is here.
Where actually we hear him now reply.
You are my family.
But as I said, most of it's similar stuff to before, although we do get to see the Burnie Cross finally. There's something else that struck me when I watched this trailer. I mean, I like films and I watch a lot of trailers, and this trailer is cut and also scored an awful lot like a trailer that I've seen more than a few times. You see, trailers, as well as being full of lies, steal from other trailers. You've probably noticed this in the way that, they use similar bits of music, like the Adagio from Sunshine.
What's the last thing you remember?
What is it? You didn't see that? He was just staring at my legs.
I was defenseless against the dress.
What does that have to do with anything? Your path through the world is supposed to have been adjusted. You weren't ever supposed to see her again.
My name is Major William Stryker. You boys tired of running? Tired of denying?
You've also probably seen the one from The Thin Red Line, which has been used in so many different films and trailers and TV shows that it's actually become known as the Forbidden Cue, because it's so overused you're basically not to use it anymore. But this trailer's shockingly like a trailer for a film called Cloud Atlas. Now, if you've never seen it, I don't blame you, because it's not that well known a film. But it's a cracking movie, and it's a really good book as well. And it's all about the same living soul living different lives across time. It's also about 3 hours long, and it's got about 7 different storylines that are all intercut, so it's one that you kind of have to strap into. But the funny thing is both trailers have kind of the same essential structure, despite being different lengths. You see, both of them start off kind of wistful and somber, and then someone says something and the music gets all serious and moody.
I know you are. Sonmi 451.
To fulfill your oath, do not disappoint me.
And then there's like a tempo change, and it gets all kinds of new age music-y. And that's what made me first make the connection in my head, since the music from Cloud Atlas is a song called Outro by M83. And you might know that one if you've ever watched a TV show called Versailles, because it's the same music they use on the intro credits of that, ironically. And it's also eerily similar to the music on the Outlander trailer, which is a track called Corners of the Earth by a band called Odetsa. Now, if that wasn't enough, we also get this loud triple beat thing with 3 words flashing up. And the final kicker for me is that the final spoken lines on the trailers almost sound like they're part of the same conversation.
What kind of world is this?
The only world.
No, it isn't.
I believe there is another world waiting for us, Sixsmith. A better world. And I'll be waiting for you there.
Now you might be saying, okay, Ian, you're just seeing things now, you're just seeing what you want to see. But I reckon that what actually happened here is something that's quite common. Is somebody up in like Stars or Sony head office land is like planning out season 5, and they wanted to do the Outlander trailer, and they were like, hey trailer guy, edit me a trailer that's a bit like this one for Cloud Atlas, but make it a bit shorter. But the fact is, the trailer itself is pretty good. It shows us a bunch of new stuff while basically just tying out and expanding on some of the stuff that was in the teaser, whetting our appetites a bit, but still not actually giving anything away. But of course, with the new season starting up soon, that was never going to be all that they released. Now, much to my surprise, while I was prepping this and just about to record the audio, they went and dropped an episode teaser. Or at least I presume it's the teaser for the first episode, and it's been put online and it's called Who Run the Ridge, which is really bad grammar. So I presume it's not one of the main cast who's saying this. I mean, maybe it's the dead guy because, you know, he dead.
Oh, I must be terribly British and correct your grammar. I think it's he died. I said, at first he died. Now he dead.
Anyway, this looks like it's going to be an episode about some kind of epidemic or illness, because we've got loads of shots of dead man dead, and a coffin, and surgery, and maybe that even looks like it could be a bit of an autopsy. And there's Claire covering her face with a hanky, and there's lots of stuff with Parsley chopping up animals, and it looks like Claire might be trying to enlist her as some kind of nurse or assistant, or like maybe some kind of autopsy assistant. Because if she's good at butchering meat and chopping up animals without a problem, she might be really good at doing the same thing to people. And then right at the end, we've got Brie, and she's saying,
Je suis prêt.
yeah, that's the family motto. You know, the Fraser family motto.
Je suis prêt.
Or maybe she's holding up a glass and saying that her favourite drink is just wee pressed. Ooh. No, I'm not proud of that. Let's move on. What's interesting about this is it shows that clearly this first episode is going to be about what the Outlander ladies are up to, and it's showing that Claire's going to be hard at work doctoring and using future medicine know-how to get to the bottom of some kind of badness or plague or something. And clearly Parsley has something to do now that wee Ian's gone native, and he used to be Claire's extra pair of hands, and Parsley, now the kids are getting a bit older, she obviously wants to be doing something while Fungus is away doing his stuff as a regulator. And I'll be honest, it's not a particularly exciting trailer, certainly not for a non-book reader, because I don't know if this ties into something specific in the book, and for the start of a season, it feels a little bit mundane. And I suppose this season is kind of continuation of everything that happened at the end of the last one, so rather than being a big new thing, they're trying to bolster everything that exists rather than reinvent the wheel. And that gives me a lovely segue to move on to the next piece of pre-release hype-induced marketing, because, as we all know, they also did a sneaky peek release of the first few minutes of episode 1. But, you know, if you want to keep things fresh, maybe you should skip ahead to the timestamp on screen now. And it's only a couple of wee minutes and a couple of wee bits of show, but if you want to go in spoiler free, here it comes. So here we are, season 5, right down back at the old Broch of the Laos, where Murtaugh's striding purposefully across the hillside, talking to a wee soulless ginger child, who of course is none other than wee Jamie. And clearly this is the point in time when Jamie's mum, who Murtaugh kind of fancied a bit, you know, unless I misremembered, he's asking Jamie to work for him, and tells him, and that, you know, they're going to go off and become friends with Jimmy Hoffa, and the Teamster... Oh, no, wait, sorry, my mistake. That's the plot of 2019's The Irishman. Sorry, I got really confused there, because the guys at Stars have done the same sort of de-aging process on Duncan Lacroix's face to make him look a wee bit younger. Now, I'm not saying they went to the same effort that they did in The Irishman, because apparently they invented a whole new bunch of technology to do that. But it definitely looks like they've tidied him up and smoothed him over a wee bit and gotten rid of some wrinkles. I mean, I know that they've aged him up considerably for the last couple of seasons in the New World, because this is supposed to be the 1770s, and he's supposed to be like, you know, 40 years older than he was in the first season, or thereabouts, or at least here. So imagine this is supposed to be Murtaugh in his mid to late 20s, and even compared to like how he's supposed to be in his like late 30s or early 40s at Castle Lake in season 1 and 2, he's definitely not quite as fresh-faced because he's had a bit of a rough life, a kind of a tough paper round. And again, a lot of that's makeup where they've obviously made him look windburnt and ruddy, but they've definitely done something here, because aside from the dark brown wig and the favourable lighting, he just looks a little bit young and smooth. But what about the scene though? Well, I think it's interesting to start a season on a moment like this. And I've said before, I think it's important because the opening scene of anything should tell you about what's going on. Because be it a film or a book or a play, it should basically kick everything off and tell you the tone of how everything's going to go. I mean, classic example, think of something like a Christopher Nolan movie. Every single film he did basically is going to tell you something really important about how the story or how it's going to go, and you don't always know how it ties in until much later on.
Are you watching closely?
So having Murtagh pledge himself to be Jaime's man in this scene tells us a key thing about this season, and considering they're now on different sides of a conflict, and since, well, I mean, Murtagh in the books is already dead, so I think what they've got here is a bona fide spot the stiff moment.
Spot the stiff. Spot the stiff. Which characters are not going to make it to the end of the film?
Yeah, sorry folks, that's my prediction. I don't think Old Mertz is long for this show. I mean, maybe not in the next few episodes, but I don't really see him making all the way to season 6. Now, I could be wrong, but that's where I'd put my chips down. And it's interestingly quite a short scene, and it could be that the final episode might be a couple of sentences longer or something, or maybe there'll be one of those Outlander Untolds that they put on the DVDs and the Blu-rays. But it ends with a pretty hard cut, where the credits almost certainly go, and then we get a second scene, one with Roger and Jaime. Now this kicks off with Roger attempting to shave his face with a straight razor, and Jaime looks on kind of askance because he's doing a pretty crappy job. So Big Jim comes over and takes over and does his best bit of half-blind daughtery old man impression, and then they drop some exposition to keep everyone up to speed that it's a really important day, because presumably this is actually going to be the wedding day, because they keep talking about a ring and weddings and stuff. But we also find out that Jaime's hard at work building a new house, which presumably is the big house that we've seen in the trailers.
We have a floor under our feet now and a roof above our heads.
So that means that Roger and Bree have inherited the old cabin in the woods. No, not that one. That one. Apparently, Bree wants Roger to add a loft to the place, and that makes him admit to Jaime that he knows less about Sodal than 10 men do, especially to do with basic 18th century sort of building and living and hunting and shooting type things. And then Jaime gives him the ring and makes a comment about it being fit for his daughter, or at least this is fit for his daughter, which seems like a backhanded compliment. Right, maybe it's just like me, but that really feels like a dig at Roger not being good enough. Now, it's an interesting wee scene, and there's a few things I could say about it, and some of them I'm going to leave until the proper episode review, assuming this scene actually ends up in the proper episode. But not least of all, is how absolutely terrible Sam's shaving technique is. I mean, no, really, I'll leave that for then, because this is just a look ahead. But the thing that is actually interesting about this scene, apart from all the basic info that they dump about who lives where, the stuff about the new house, stuff about the wedding come up, and it underlines there's an awful lot of friction between Jaime and Roger. Not only that, but Roger has real concerns about his ability to provide and find work in this time, something that Jaime hasn't failed to notice. And it's a clue that this needs to be sorted out this season, that there's things that need to be sorted out between them. There's a rift in their relationship, which I think I mentioned in my first video. I think I'm right in predicting that this ire has got to be one of the major arcs over the season that needs to get settled, and I think it probably might happen this season. Maybe not, maybe it'll stretch into the next one. But if they're laying it on this thick in season 2 of episode 1, it probably is going to be one of the major things going on, an important factor, since Roger's character is one that needs more than a little bit of fixing. Now, while I mentioned in my first part that Claire, for example, needs to have an arc and a goal for this season, Roger needs to be almost completely rebuilt as a character, because season 4 almost completely ruined him by making him needy, controlling, unpleasant, and generally come across like a bit of an arsehole. Now sure, book readers still absolutely love him because Book Roger's really, really lovely, but this is a serious problem in the adaptation.
Yes. Pardon me for wanting you to be my wife.
And Roger's been a bit of a misstep.
Which, by the way, you are now, so maybe it's time you listened to me.
What?
And I doubt how the folk making the show realised how much it would play across to the audience in a bad way.
I'm your wife, so now I have to do what you say?
I mean, not quite on the same scale as something like, for example, Game of Thrones, when they managed to turn what was a consensual sex scene in the books into a rape scene in the TV show and somehow didn't realise it. It's still a major problem if he's a character we're supposed to like. And that's why I imagine they'd gone in guns blazing to paint him as a heroic man willing to risk everything for his love and his adopted pirate baby, rather than as a bitter, negging, selfish user. So anyway, there we have it, folks. 3 videos, 8 parts, and a whole load of speculation, conjecture, guesswork based on a plethora of videos, trailers, and inside peeks. Now it's only a short matter of time until season 5 of Outlander pops up on our tellies, and I hope this has been whetting your appetite a little bit, and that you'll be watching it along with me when I do my reviews. And on a final note, I've decided that since I've been doing this channel for about 5 years, I'd try something a little bit different. You see, I've set myself up a Patreon. And while I don't expect I'm ever going to make a living off of YouTube, the fact is my wee channel is just a bit too small to get monetized under YouTube's rules. And any video that actually does get decent hits gets slapped with loads of copyright strikes, and someone like CBS or Sony takes all the money anyway, money I was never going to see in the first place. So I've popped a wee link down in the video description, and I'm probably going to mention it from time to time on my videos. So if you want to drop me a wee something, that's really great. It'll help me get on with things. If not, I'm happy as long as you subscribe, or you follow me on Twitter, or you even just pop a nice comment in the messages. That'll just make everything good for me. As long as you're here for the adventure, we'll all have a really good time. So until next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.